The Obsession podcast with
Carl Bethke.
how's everybody doing today? Great, I can hear you out there. It's awesome.
That's right.
So today we're going to talk about when to shoot does, why not, times a year. I guess I'll start this off, Carl.
Yeah, go ahead.
Obviously, doe management is huge in your properties.
Oh yeah.
No matter how big that chunk of property is. We are both big advocates of trying to get numbers, which we do a lot with our cameras, scouting, filming, especially cameras in particular, because you can see, you see your times, see certain number of does here, certain number of does there,
Right.
to really get the feel of what you got on your property, keep that buck-doe ratio right. Otherwise, your rut that everybody wants to hunt
Yeah.
is going to suck.
It's definitely gonna suck.
It's gonna suck. So,
Yeah.
I like to shoot does
Oh yeah.
if you need to, obviously.
Right.
Sometimes you don't need to,
Well-
depending on your property,
Right now on both of our properties, I think we're trying to kind of build to her a little bit.
for sure.
So we didn't shoot very many doe. I shot one off our property,
Hmm.
and you didn't take
I did
any
not
off.
shoot any this year, no.
Right. And if you look at our cameras, obviously you're gonna see there's does on the cameras. At times at my place there was 8 antlerless deer in a picture,
Yeah,
but they weren't all does. There was nubbins,
right.
right? And a part of that is knowing which doe is which too. So you got to pay close attention. That's where the camera stuff comes into
For
play.
sure. Also your neighbors.
Right.
You gotta know what your neighbors are doing.
Yeah, and that's hard to figure out
Yeah.
sometimes.
If your neighbors are out shooting every doe that walks by, you might not want to be shooting them.
Right. This year, like I said, I only took one doe on my property. For me, it was a little bit different. I've spoke with one neighbor to the west, and he tells me, we've got 3 does and like no fawns in the entire valley.
And no bucks.
And no bucks. If there's a buck, it's because he put in a cornfield, and that's why the bucks are there. So I need to thank him. But
I think we proved that wrong.
yeah, we definitely proved that wrong this year. But the other side, you go to my neighbor on the other side, and he's telling you, there's 15, 20 does. So communication with your neighbors, sometimes you have to take a grain of salt, and that's where the cameras come into play.
For sure. I know myself, I like to sit out there and see which does have fawns.
Mhm.
That's always a big thing for me, especially anybody out there that's listening, that if you hunted, even a year or 2 years, you're going to see it. Big mature doe coming through, fawn, maybe 2 fawns with her. A lot of times you've got that straggler doe in the back.
Yeah.
That's usually one of the ones you want to look at.
Right.
Why is she in the back? Why is she following? Is she not a breeder? Is she dry? Is she a monarch? You definitely want to get them out of there if she's a blower.
Yeah. You'll find that the older does too. I mean, Mike and I shot some pretty old does. I think he shot one that was almost 9 years old one year. But they talk about a big Roman nose on a buck who's like 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old. You'll notice the same on a doe. A big doe. Big doe's got a super long nose.
Yeah.
Super long nose. And I don't really know the does here in Mike's area, because Mike's in Central. We're actually at his place today again. Right. And Mike's in Central Wisconsin here, maybe a little bit to the east, and the property that I'm talking about is way to the west. And there is a little bit of a difference between the size of the animals at times. Mike's had some really big does up there.
Different country.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, well,
So
corn fed and things like that.
different structure on there, but yeah, and the does gotta go. They're does are great. Don't get me wrong, but anybody who tells you big does are easy to kill, they haven't hunted very many big does.
No, a big doe is just as hard to kill as a big buck. Probably harder at times, is what I would say.
Does are what I like to see for a little while, and then I want them to go away. So they're the ones that are gonna pick you out of a tree every time.
I really don't want them when there's a big buck around.
No, that's
Not
for sure.
at all. But to decide like Mike was probably alluding to before we started here is talking about which does to shoot. You're talking about that. I don't know if I want to say straggler or whatever, but the one on the backside, like you said, where she doesn't have fawns. You can tell either she's older, injured, or probably not even part of this doe group. So doe groups to me, they have a monarchy just like anything else. and there's the dominant doe,
For sure.
and you'll see that too, and you'll see when we talk about our properties a little bit later. We can touch a little bit on it right now. Is our properties are set up to keep the doe groups separated.
Yeah, that comes with which we'll talk about at some point, but food plot setup,
Yeah.
bedding structure.
Yep.
Does pressure each other, or deer in general pressure each other, just like if kids in high school.
Oh, yeah.
They really need to be separated, or they will go their own way.
Yeah.
And if you can't keep does, you're not going to get bucks. I mean, that's pretty common knowledge. But yeah, trying to pick those right does, it's not a foolproof plan. It never is. Anybody tells you it is wrong.
Well,
it takes time to, sometimes you're not going to get the one you want,
Right.
but there's times that they just got to go anyway.
Right. Like on my property, I'll tell you right now, and Mike knows it too, but I'll shoot a doe fawn before I'll shoot a 2 or 3 year old doe. And the reason for that is really a mouth is a mouth when we're talking about your property and food. So a doe fawn and a doe aren't going to eat that much different, but they're still eating the food. So your property has the ability to only hold so many deer throughout the year. Yeah. And in my view of it, I will take out a doe fawn before I'll take out what I would call a breeding doe or a good breeding doe. Right. Or I'll take out what I know to be an older class doe. Like the doe I shot this year. I mean, she was big.
Yes.
And
then it goes back to pressure again, deer pressure.
Yeah, 100%.
They will pressure each other off the property.
Yeah, if your doe groups are stressed, then your bucks are going to be stressed. Yeah. And like we said, we'll touch on that later about how we lay out our food plots and stuff to keep doe stress. And it can be as simple as running 10 rows of corn between 2 green fields.
Yep.
Or switchgrass or anything like that. I'm fortunate enough to have a little bit bigger piece. So what I mean by a big piece in Wisconsin is, big piece to me in Wisconsin is 100 acres.
Yeah, I'd take that.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody wouldn't, but.
Yeah. My piece is 72, but we've laid it out to where we can control the doe groups. The other part of controlling doe groups on your property is understand this. You only want a certain amount of summer food on your property for does. Okay, otherwise you're going to create basically a place for does to accumulate, and once you accumulate too many does, you're not going to attract bucks.
No.
And that's a big thing that's a big misconception here in Wisconsin. You'll hear a lot of the older guys talk about, well, you don't shoot does ever because they're the one that make the bucks. Yeah. Well, that's true to a point.
Yes, to a point.
Right.
Like, my property here, we had a lot of fall, winter food. Mm-hmm. I have really large deer numbers on this property now, and I only have a 40-acre parcel that I hunt here, mm-hmm. and but all my bucks are here.
That's true.
All the ones we let go through the year, they're all here. The doe numbers seem to be pretty good. Seeing what I see now, I'm going to want to take out a couple, I think, for sure next year, but I know that now going into next year.
Right.
And you can start to see the ones that got to go.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll see them, especially the more you sit in a stand. Carl and I sit in stands, way before hunting season.
Oh, yeah.
Scouting, filming, watching. It sounds like a lot of work. Well, it is. It's you're not gonna get your end result without putting in the work in the beginning of it. So it takes a lot of time.
That's a big thing too. You have right now our cameras and us being out in the woods is telling us what we need to do for next year.
Definitely,
100%. If you're not doing that, then I'll be honest with you, you're not educating yourself enough on your deer herd or your property or anything. That being said, I understand a lot of people are busy obviously this time of year, but you need to make time for this if you're going to be really serious about it, hence the name of the show, The Obsession. It is an obsession. It's 100% an obsession
for sure.
If you're going to be a whitetail hunter or a deer hunter or anything and be successful at it, you better be obsessed with it.
I mean, we said every time we hunt, we critique what we're doing. We critique each other's property. We sat on different, pieces of property with each other and said, hey, I think we got an idea for next year. So that's got to change. You can't get stuck in a rut thinking, oh, this is my stand. I killed a buck out of this stand. I'm going to sit here every year. Well, good luck. it could happen, but
Yeah.
you know, eventually it's not going to.
I actually killed my buck this year out of a stand I thought was basically a doe spot.
Yeah, right, for sure. I
But,
mean,
but somebody said to me, hey,
Yeah.
you should probably hunt right up
that guy
here.
was super smart that night.
Yeah, he was.
You know, every once in a while. But
Yeah, right up to the point to where he had another big one.
yeah, I know, and then he was dumb again. That happens. You know?
Had a moment of
Yeah, a moment of dumbness that I had after that. All those years, it doesn't matter. It still gets you, but
You know, we haven't doubled ever done
no,
big deer
it's
one day.
terrible. We'll get that.
It's only 20 years,
Yeah,
dude.
it's we just got started.
Right, we'll get there, right? But yeah, back to the doe thing. You know, okay, so let's talk about why you shoot does.
For one reason, I like to shoot my does early. I'm a huge advocate of early,
If I have a choice.
and I'm talking first couple weeks
Oh yeah, 2
in
weeks.
September. I see a lot of people shoot them late. I see it on TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
Your does are bred late in the year,
Yep.
so you're killing your your possible superstars coming up.
It's true.
And I mean, you're shooting them before that. You ain't gotta worry about them being bred, and you want your numbers intact for that late season, for that rut. That's when you want your numbers right,
And that's why I think the early season taking of does is more important. Because then you have that control. You know what your controllability is. You're limiting, to me, you're limiting your variables.
Right.
You start taking out does, like you said, that are already bred. You could be taking out twins. You could be taking out even triplets, like on my place. We've had some triplets.
And you think about, Carl, the bucks that you let go. Okay.
Yeah.
So say you let a nice year and a half, 2.5, even 3.5-year-old 10-pointer go. Okay, so that buck bred somebody.
Oh yeah.
So now you shoot a doe.
Who could be bred by
Yeah,
Judas Priest
during
or
gun
whatever.
season or late bull.
Yeah.
You might have just taken that genetic out that you let go
Oh,
to breed.
you know where I've seen that
So-
the most is actually on my brother-in-law's property, where we were, we always used to shoot 10-pointers
Yep.
or whatever, that Fork G2 genetic we
Yep.
had out there, and now there's nothing
And now
but
it's gone.
Yeah, nothing but 8-pointers out there. Haven't seen a 10-pointer on that property in 3 years, Mike.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's tough to get that, and I'm a huge 8-point shooter guy. I mean, I'll shoot every big 8-pointer comes by me. But I mean, you like to have that genetic, and
Oh, yeah.
without the genetic, it's hard to get back in.
Yeah, if you're a score person for sure, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you guys are. We're not huge on
We are not,
scores.
no.
But if you're a score person, a 10-point frame, 2.5-year-old on my property is probably pretty close to Pope and Young.
Yeah,
And out here, it's not far from being that right here either.
right,
So-
real close.
So, at 3 years old, they're a Pope and Young deer. It's
And I
just-
mean, in theory, it's what you want.
Right.
I mean, if you're to the point where you can pass up Pope and Young deer, awesome. You're going the right way. What
I'm
you
not
want
there
to do.
yet, Mike.
Yeah, I've never been there.
Yeah.
I'd love to be there.
Yeah.
There's a trigger in my head. There ain't a lot in there. There's a trigger in there.
Yeah.
And I see something and it's go time. It's just gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
I always told the camera guy, I'm like, you see me pick up my bow, get that thing on,
It's a
because
good
something's gonna happen.
there's not many people I can film for them because they're not ready.
Yeah.
I can do it. I always got that camera on.
Yeah, it's always ready to go, but
Yeah. So seriously though, I mean, you get out now. This is the time. It's cold. It's late December. If you're getting your property set up, you should have some deer hopefully staying in there.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you know what you got to do. And we got a situation where we got to put more food in.
oh yeah,
To keep deer on your property.
yeah, my
know.
property right now. Now it's a fairly large property. We added a lot of food this year.
Yeah.
And
Not
the
near
year,
enough.
so yeah, not near enough. So the first year I bought it, I put in maybe 2 acres of food plots, right? And by early October, my deer had eaten all the food down there.
Well, and last year too was such early success for you
Right.
that
Yeah.
I mean you're done. You're
Right.
out of there. And we don't gun hunt.
Right.
So really we're like got our deer out.
Yeah.
And
But that doesn't help us.
no,
now, so.
and then in theory it hurt us.
It did.
By shooting deer early.
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't think it does, but you kind of, I did my work, I got my buck.
Yeah.
You get kind of complacent, which kills you for the following year
Yeah.
and the year after.
Yeah, I don't like being complacent. That's like a zero tolerance.
sucks.
It does
Yeah.
suck.
People suck.
People do. But we were sitting there, and so last year I added more food. So now I had actually added another 2 acres of food. And Mike came down this year, and like he said, we critique each other's properties. We're not criticizing each other, just so you know. Criticizing doing all that shit you see on Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah, I don't.
It's just bull.
We're looking to. I tell you, you're probably not going to meet ever. If you're lucky enough to meet us, I'll just throw that out there. We're pretty cool. I'm just gonna tell you.
That's something, right?
You know, we like to see people succeed.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're not at that point, you're just in it for the wrong reason. Because if you care what somebody else thinks about your deer,
You're in trouble.
it'll be tough times for you there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. I've shot some really big deer. I've shot deer after that weren't. I don't put them out there much.
Yeah.
Just to tell you the truth, I don't care what other people think. You know, I hunt for me and what I want to do. But to succeed, like Carl says, a lot of time. You know, do what you got to do for yourself.
Yeah, and succeeding, your definition of succeeding is your own deal too.
For sure.
That's the other part of it. But, you know, back to the doe part of it, right now there are some antlerless deer on my property. So the advantage I think I have over Mike, here's what it is. I don't have cell cameras on my property, so I'm not constantly getting the bing,
They are the devil.
bing.
They're nice, but they're terrible at the same time. Because
Yeah.
you see everything constantly, and you can't not look.
Oh yeah.
It's just
When we were going to North Dakota, it's like,
yeah, bing, bing, bing. The camera's going.
big
up.
bucks on the Stadler compound,
Yeah,
another
yeah.
big buck.
Yeah.
Nope, doe,
Yeah,
doe.
Fawn, trespasser. No trespassers.
But that part of it too, you know, trail cameras, cell cameras are a good tool also. I have just regular cameras on my property because my property is down in a valley.
Yeah, we can't get them to work.
Yeah, they won't work there at all. So, you know, I kind of like that part of it because it's still a surprise every time I pop the chip.
It is.
But then you're like, God, I should, damn it.
Yeah, I know. I'll tell you, the cell cams are great though. I love them. I've had them for several years now. I've added some more to it. They don't show you everything.
No.
I mean, I've sat, because I can confirm it, I've sat in my stand, watched deer go fairly close to the cameras, and didn't pick them up. So I mean, they're not a catch-all. No camera is.
No, and the other part about cameras too is they do make noise, and everybody talks about scent free and all that. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, my opinion on that is BS. I call bullshit on that because we're throwing lead acid batteries in it, which is a chemical reaction. And people talk about spraying your hands down, wearing rubber gloves, all that crap.
It helps, but
You don't put enough scent on
you're
that
never
camera.
getting- yeah.
Maybe for the first 10 hours while it's out in the
and
truck.
that's gone.
Yeah. So, but what deer do notice, 9 times out of 10, is a little block on the tree. Now, I've seen people, and I do it myself, get a bigger tree than the camera or whatever, and it pretty much hides them out or whatever, but sooner or later they hear something if they're close to it. And I've watched does, you and I both seen it, where they're walking along, they stop, and they walk around the backside of the camera, and they go right back onto the trail behind me. So I'm not saying this happens all the time, I'm sure there'll be some statements about that, but it's true. So now when you watch me lay out cameras, most of it's on scrapes or food plots. They seem to be more tolerant on a food plot.
Yeah, food plots, they don't seem to bother them as much, from what, you know, our experiences anyway.
Yeah.
You know, random cameras too are good. I like to throw a random camera
Yeah.
somewhere where there's probably never been one. You know, sometimes you pick up nothing.
Yep.
Sometimes all of a sudden you find, hey, I think I might need to put a stand in this tree.
Yeah.
You know, because you pick up another travel corridor, which is a good thing too. And I think you'll agree too now, you know, talking about this doe harvesting, going back to this late season, how it is now, you can really kind of get a pattern of where these deer are traveling.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little easier to see now with everything down and
Well, it's for sure. You'll definitely see that when you're in a tree now this time of year, you'll actually pick up on the doe patterns even more and realize they're going to use the same patterns next year. In the summertime where you can't see them, but that's where they're going to come.
yeah, for sure.
And, you know, we do have some stands that are specifically set for just taking out antlerless deer. And the reason for that, now you're going to get bucks traveling through there too, and we know that, more during the rut, and they'll probably just be 10, 15 yards off one side or the other of that main trail because they're going to be sent.
Yeah,
And
they're
they,
scent checking.
they don't like to be out in an open space. That's another thing you'll notice too, is does will come right through the middle of,
Yeah.
well, they don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. They're a lot noisier, just blow in. But you got to remember too, I think a lot of people don't know, Carl, that, you know, usually the does are the ones that are bedding your property 90% of the time,
Yep.
and the bucks may be bedding close.
That's
You know,
true.
they're not always living there.
Yeah.
So
You know, I guess I would say,
I should say in the same spots.
Right. When you got food, so my property, or even Mike's property, with the way they're laid out, you've got your food, and then I'd say within 50 to 150 yards, probably 50 to 100 yards is where the does and fawns are.
Yeah, they're gonna go far.
And then from that 100 yard to 200 yards is probably where I would say you get like 1.5-year-old buck, 2.5-year-old buck laying. They kind of want to separate themselves. And a big mature whitetail, the majority of the ones that we've found are pretty much loners. I'm not gonna lie about that. And they're gonna be off someplace on their own. And finding that little honey hole, you know, I'm not one. Now Mike and I differ here. I am not one to bomb in on a buck's bedding area, where Mike here will just hang it right over the top of his bed. It'd be like I'm hunting there in the morning.
I'm a little more aggressive.
A little bit more
That
aggressive.
time there, and you know what? Both ways pay off,
Yeah,
and both ways get you.
that's
I
true.
mean, it's
Oh yeah.
it's all preference there, but that's, you know, that works good with us too. We do that stuff, and
We'll
you know,
push each other.
it's paid off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, doe management is probably the most crucial thing to shooting a big buck. I mean, now granted, you're gonna get everybody that's gonna go out there once or twice, and all of a sudden they're gonna shoot a giant.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and not do anything. But you know, to consistently put bucks on the ground year after year, you know, and you know, Kyle and I have been lucky and good enough to do that. So and it's hard to do, and it's not saying we're better than anybody else or
No.
we're a better shot or better this or better that, but it's a lot of time, a lot of, you know, what we're talking about here and in all our podcasts is trying to succeed, and your level of success depends on how much you want to put into it. And,
Yeah.
and doe management's probably got to be one of the top things that a lot of people don't want to do.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys have questions, don't hesitate to put them here on the comments on our YouTube channel or whatever. You can email me at rushoutdoorswisconsin.
Yeah. None
Either
of you can,
way.
none of you can criticize us as much as we criticize each other either.
Oh
so
yeah,
don't
we're
worry.
far more
Yeah.
critical on each other
Yeah.
than you guys can ever be on us. But does in general, I'm going to say they are a creature habit.
Yes.
A doe to me, and I'm not going to say a doe is a doe, but 9 times out of 10 they are. Once they reach the age of 4, 5, and 6, they feed the same as a regular doe, but they're far more observant.
Yeah. And really, you got to get those does gone.
Yeah, I like to let my does get to maybe 4
Yeah.
at the most, and then have enough age group wise that just continues.
Yes.
You know, and then if I have to take out does on the property mouth wise, I'll take out a doe fawn.
Yeah.
And don't, here's the other part of it. Okay, so if a doe has a fawn, just so you know, early season, that by the time that doe is, you know, or that fawn is that age where bull season rolls around, you can shoot that doe and know that that fawn's
That's
probably
fine,
going to
yeah.
survive here in southern Wisconsin, where it's up higher, say central, or where you have tougher winters, northern Wisconsin, southern Michigan, Minnesota, mid-central Minnesota, stuff like that. That's a different story. I probably wouldn't shoot a doe with a fawn
Right.
then. But if you can single out an individual doe that doesn't have fawns,
Yeah, it's your best one to take.
yeah, it's your best one
Get
to
it out
take.
there.
Yeah. So, like I said, it varies on each property. Some of you may have 300-400 acres where you got a doe problem, or doe factory is what I've heard
Yeah.
people refer to it as, and that makes sense. But if you have something like that and you have to take that number out and you have the tags to do it, you know, do it.
Yeah.
If not, you know, I want to, you know, everybody talks 50-50 ratio. I'm not really a 50-50 guy. I'm like, if you've got 4 does to every buck, let's just say 25%, I think that's probably a pretty good ratio.
That's not bad.
No. But here's the other thing too, understanding with the small properties that Mike and I are talking about, even up to 200, maybe even 300 acres, those deer aren't staying on your property.
No.
Buck-wise. Doe-wise, you're probably going to get them home bodies. I mean, you've got home bodies here on
Yes.
40.
Yeah. Now. But yeah, which we'll get into on, you know, several, you know, podcasts down the road. But it's, you know, trying to design that to maintain those deer. It's you know, passing them up, hoping they're going to come back, creating a structure for them to be there. Again, goes back to your doe management.
Right.
You know, and you know where we started with all this is early. You know, we both agree we like to take them out early.
Yeah, 100% take your does out, and to me, the first 2 weeks
Yeah,
of the season.
I mean, I'm not shooting a doe during the rut.
No.
You know, I mean, now don't get me wrong. If a doe comes through, a doe's injured, you know,
Yeah.
obviously something like that, you know, or got tore up by a coyote, which we see a lot of that here
Yeah.
in Wisconsin. I mean, obviously, yes, you got to take a deer out, but
Right.
otherwise, we're shooting does early. We make a pretty hard stand on that part of it, I think.
Pretty much
You know.
100%. I took a doe this year. It was in October, and that's the latest I've ever shot a doe.
That was the latest I ever remember you shooting.
Yeah, but I had my buck tag was gone.
Yep.
And a girl at work wanted me.
Yeah.
So.
And it's hard to not be in a stand in October.
Well, that's a
Wow.
fact. That's the night. That was after you shot your buck, wasn't it? That's the night Cody
Yeah.
shot Judas Reese.
Yes.
So, yeah. Well, I'll tell you. Basically, like Mike said, our view on it is you shoot your does early. I shoot them first 2-3 weeks of bow season, and that's done out of the way. It helps control your herd. It takes away the variable of shooting next year's or the future's bucks.
Yes.
That's just our view on it, and that's kind of where we stand on it. So.
Sure.
It's about the end of the podcast for that.
It is. Any questions, comments? Feel free to let us know.
And we appreciate all your guys' comments. So I want you guys to ask any of the questions. That'll help us bring in the future podcasts. Any questions or anything you guys have, because we've probably got an opinion on it.
Yeah. Remember at the end of the day, we're never going to say we're experts on anything, but we're going to tell you what we do and what works for us, and continued success.
Yeah.
That we've been lucky enough to do every year. So that's where our opinions and views come from.
Yep.
Is the field.
So thanks for listening to the podcast. Thanks for watching it on YouTube. Appreciate all you guys' support. Tune in next week when we bring you the next podcast and show of